Well, welcome to our van tour. If you're new around here, I'm Jess, and behind the camera is John, and this is our beauty little Sainsbury's van. Now, when we first started our van life adventure, we weren't sure what the best vehicle was. And truth be told, we still don't, but we've tried a few. We've had a normal Sprinter panel van that we took on an amazing summer road trip around Europe. We built a little high ace in Australia and travelled around there. We built a Defender into a 2-storey expedition rig and took it to Morocco and Spain overlanding. Our latest build was a 6x6 fire truck that we're going to take to Iceland. And this little beauty was built out of a dream to go to the Arctic, which we did last year in the Nordics, and now you find us in far northern Canada. And we built each of these vehicles with a specific trip in mind. And the joy of doing this is that we learn so much each time that hopefully when we come to build our ultimate overlanding rig, we might get it right. But enough of all that, let's show you this old gal.
So I think without a doubt this is one of the best vehicles you can buy off the shelf second hand to convert into a camper to do all different kinds of travels in. And unbelievably, it's one of the cheapest too, because we got this with under 100,000 miles on it for £10,000. The reason I think it's the best is because of the material it's made from, because this is basically an insulation board with fiberglass either side, which means it's got incredible thermal properties, so it's good in the hot and the cold, and all the most expensive expedition vehicles going are made from this.
Another thing that makes them a brilliant base vehicle is they're really quite lightweight. Once you take the fridge unit off the top from when she used to deliver groceries and the heavy steps from the back, the base vehicle only weighs 2,060 kilos, which gives you 1.5 tonnes to play with for your build. And our build with full fuel and water tanks weighs in at just under 3 tonnes, which gives us a 500 kilo payload for us, our food and bits and bobs.
So let's get into the exterior mods. Now you're going to have to excuse it because it's a bit dirty at the minute because the roads are a bit slushy. But firstly, we fitted some 16-inch alloy wheels with some all-terrain tyres. Now these are the Conforza CF1100s, and I've tried all different kinds of all-terrain tyres, and I think these, for the money, are incredible. We've also made some suspension upgrades by installing some Sumo Super Springs. So we've got the bump stops on the front and the rear, and we've gone for the helper leaf spring on the back. Now, because these vehicles are quite tall, you get quite a lot of body roll, and with them suspension fixes, it makes it a lot better.
And then on the front here, we've just got some big nasty spotlights and 4 more up on the roof rack. Now, we built the roof rack ourselves. It's just some 22mm pipe that we bent with an electrician's conduit bender. And it does 3 jobs for us. First, it gives us a place for our spare wheel. Second, it gives us some extra storage. And third, it bridges the gap between the box and the cab, because without it, she looks a bit ugly.
Another thing that makes this base vehicle so ugly is the fact that the box is so tall, so you get all this dead space underneath. But the good thing about that is you can use it for storage. So we've installed these Dakin lockers down here. Now, if you wanted to make some aluminium ones, it'd cost you a lot of money, whereas these are quite cheap for what they are, and they're really robust, and they use them on lorries. So we've just got a load of storage in there. And then these are Thule double drop down electric steps. Really good bit of kit. They're quite expensive, but we couldn't find any other companies that make them. And then on the rear here as well, I've just made a little bracket up so we can carry a jerry can. This side, we've got another jerry can on the back here. Now, normally we have a water jerry can, but we've gone for 2 fuels because of the big distances we're doing out here. Then we got a little Dakin locker, which we use for excess rubbish. And then we've got the Max Tracks on the side, and inside of that is a waste tank for the shower. And then on the front here is these 3 drop down boat steps. Now these are brilliant. They're only 30 quid off of eBay, and they're a real good alternative to having a ladder. And then we've got the water filler point and the gas locker. Now we've got 2 refillable gas bottles in here, and the reason I put them in here rather than underslung is because we come to these extreme colds, a lot of the time your regulator can freeze, whereas we've been down to -32 in this and we've never had an issue. And the back of the van was originally where the door was to get inside the box. So we infilled that panel, we stuck a window at the top, and this is our garage door. Now you can't see much in there at the minute because it's full of stuff, but we've got some clips of when we built it. Now we installed our water filtration system here, which means we can fill up from any water source and we can use it for drinking water too. And we've also got the waste tank in there for the sink. And the reason we put it in there is so it doesn't freeze. And then down the bottom here, we've got a rear reversing camera and a winch. Now, the reason we installed the winch on the back rather than the front is a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's quite expensive to do it on the front with the brackets and the bumper and everything, whereas this is just mounted to the original tow bar points. And the second is, they always reckon it's better to pull out the way you went in. Now, the reason we installed the winch in the first place is because we're doing a lot of remote places. If we ever did come off the road, at least we got a chance of getting ourselves out. And the last few bits is we've got the wind deflectors, because unfortunately this vehicle hasn't got air conditioning. We've got a Vanguardian alarm system, and we've got an auto-term engine preheater. Now what that does is it warms the engine up before we start it, because when you come to these extreme colds, sometimes the engine doesn't start, which is what I found out the other day, because I forgot to put it on, went to start it, and it didn't start, and I nearly flattened the battery. So if you come into this climate, it's a must-have.
So onto the cab, and these actually come with a double passenger seat as standard, but we took that out and replaced it with 2 singles. And a top tip if you want to do this is if you actually buy a driver's seat base, it will bolt straight into your passenger side, and all you have to do is cut off the handbrake bracket. They're much cheaper. And then we just got these 2 seats out of a BMW. And by selling the double front seat and base and putting these in, we actually saved money, because the Mercedes original seats are really expensive. And like John showed you, we've got a reversing camera, and we also run a dash cam. And then in the front here is where we also keep our Starlink, which is just set into some shadow foam. And I'll show you some more cool uses for that in the back. And we keep a set of tights over the top of it to stop it reflecting in the window, which was a top tip from one of our viewers. And to power it, we've just got a 12-volt Tiger X-Bed socket, because your normal 12-volt USB sockets are not powerful enough for it. But this does the job brilliantly, and we've got one in the back as well that we use to power our laptops. But the biggest change we've made in the cab is installing this crawl through, which is an absolute godsend in this cold weather. Not just because we don't lose all of the heat out of the vehicle getting in and out, but also because the least thermally efficient part of your van is the cab with all of the single glazed windows. So this means our diesel heater doesn't have to work anywhere near as hard. And then we've just insulated, sound deadened and carpeted this back wall. So on to the juicy bit and the living space. And the first thing you notice in here is we have lovely square walls, which makes building the cabinets so much easier. We also get loads more cubic meterage, because in a panel van, they bow in at the top, don't they? Whereas we've got nice square sides here. And the other advantage you've got as well is that it's already insulated and lined, so you can just fix your cabinets straight to the walls. And this van is the holy grail of van builds, because you can have a width-waist bed, which saves you so much space. Because the inside of this box is 6'5" wide, or just under 2 meters, and it's no wider than the cab, which makes it nice to drive, unlike some motorhomes.
To save more space with the bed, we've designed it to be on 2 heavy-duty drawer runners. So all we do is it slides out like that, and then the mattress in 2 halves. So that just flops over there, and that's a double bed. And we've got the supporting leg that just drops in there, and that's how quick and easy it is to make up. And then to go away, same again, leg out, mattress up, job done.
So onto the kitchen, and I've got a 2-ring burner gas hob, a nice deep sink and a swan neck tap. And the reason I always do that is because I like to wash my hair in the sink, because it saves so much water. But here's where you see another advantage of the square walls over a panel van. Because when I'm doing the washing up, you can see I've got loads of headspace here. But in a panel van, because the walls curve in, you either have to have smaller top cabinets or do the washing up a bit like this, or be like me and have an egg on my head like I used to in the old van. And then the other thing we've got is a fold-up worktop to give me a bit more kitchen space. The kitchen's also got 3 drawers and a big cupboard, but my top drawer is my favourite because we've done it with shadow foam, which allows me to layer things like with my plates and bowls, and also with my cutlery and utensils. I've got 3 removable bits, so I get all of that in my top drawer, and you don't get rattles. Now, we had quite a few people concerned about the cooker and the bed pulling out over the top of it, but it's got a safety switch on it that means it won't release gas unless these handles are fully depressed, which you can't physically do with the bed pulled out. People were also worried about getting food splatters all over the bedding. I've cooked in here for months and never had a problem, and as you can see, I've got white sheets. But if we'd done it the other way round, I wouldn't have been able to have my nice high tap to wash my hair, because the bed would have pulled out past it, and we would have had to have one that folds into the sink. So to finish off the kitchen, we've got an 85-litre fridge, and then we've got tons of storage in this van. So this is a wardrobe for all our hanging space. And then we've got baskets that go down here for all of our clothes and things. And the same in our kitchen. Now, the reason that we've left all of our cupboards open, because I know it's not everyone's choice, is 1, you save a lot of weight on your cupboard doors, but 2, it allows circulation through the cupboards, which is a big problem in cold weather because otherwise you tend to get mold. And we love to use baskets in our cupboards because you can ram so much more in them and you don't have to take everything out. The way that we keep them secure is just this alley strip along the front here. We've done some pretty bumpy roads and these haven't gone anywhere. And then on the other side of the van, we've just done them a little bit shorter and a bit narrower, so we've got more headspace in bed.
For the seating area, we wanted to make it comfy enough to work on our laptops with, because obviously we're doing editing on the road and things like that, but we wanted to make the use of the space underneath them. So underneath this side, we have got a 100-litre water tank, and that usually lasts us about a week. Now, the reason we put it inside rather than have it outside is because, again, in these conditions, if it was outside, it'd freeze. And then under this side, we've got the water heater and the night heater. Now, this is a Truma gas 11-litre water heater. And the reason we've put them in here both together is so then the night heater keeps the water heater nice and warm, so we don't risk freezing any pipes and bursting them. The diesel heater we fitted in this is a Chinese one, so it means it's not thermostatically controlled. So we've had to fit the afterburner unit. Now, I've ducted this into 3 places. We've got in the living, we've got in the bathroom, and it also goes into the garage as well. And again, that's to try and stop any pipes from freezing. And then lastly, I've rigged up this little pipe for Jess. So that slots over there, and she's got a diesel powered hairdryer.
And our bathroom size has been determined by our stainless steel shower tray, which is 600 by 900. And then we've got a composting toilet in here, which I would highly recommend. We much prefer them to the chemical toilets. They smell a lot less and they're easier to dispose of. And then for our shower, we've just got a bullfinch shower point down here. So we plug our shower in and then hang it up in the top here. And then we've got a max fan, exhaust fan at the top.
We also installed this max skylight, which we were amazed at how much light it actually lets in. And it also comes with your usual blind and bug mesh. And then the same with the windows. They're all double glazed with the blinds and the bug mesh. And Jess has made some thermal blinds that also go in there. So when we put them in and we shut the blind down, from the outside, you can't see any light inside. So it's really good for stealth camping. So for the electrical system, I've got 400 amps of lithium under here, and all my electrical system with the DC and everything like that is behind the fridge. Now, if I need to get to any of it, I've got this little trap door there. Open that and I can get to all the fuses. Now, I had a few people concerned when I built it that it was going to get too hot behind here. I haven't had that issue so far, but I did install a fan, so if it did get hot, I could suck all the hot air out. But on the flip side, if it's too cold in there, I could turn it on and suck some of the warm air in to warm the lithium up. Now, I've also got a battery in the front, which is under the passenger seat, which again comes as standard. And we run the winch and the engine preheater off that. And that's so we don't risk flattening the starter battery. Now, the reason we can do all this is because we've got a 220 amp alternator, which then means we can run 100 amps of DC-DC charging. And then on the roof, we've got 360 watts of solar.
And for the last few bits in the van, we've got this 12-volt fan, which we can turn in all different directions to circulate the air around. Then I've built a drying rack, which comes in really handy for winter van life. And we've got shoe storage at the bottom. And then there's little preserving jars that just give me that extra bit of space in the kitchen. So that's our beauty little van, and she's done us proud on her 2 very cold winter trips, and she's about to take on the Arctic Circle for the 2nd time in winter as we head north through Canada. But despite us spending nearly a month making upgrades from all the things we learned on our first Arctic trip, there's still a load of things that we would change or do differently if we were to build it again. So we thought we'd go through those for you. And the first thing we would do differently is the doors. We would never build these doors like this again. They were an absolute nightmare to fit with these original fridge door seals and the latches as well. It's also started to warp with the extreme cold, so we've had to put some bolster latches on them, and we get loads of thermal bridging through them. So just a solid no-go. We do different doors, and we'd make sure that we got some with latching mechanisms at the top and the bottom, because people have told us even with expedition vehicle builds, they get that problem if they've got a central locking mechanism.
Secondly, we would never install these push button latches because they're a pain to fit, and sometimes when you shut the drawer and you're driving along, if you forget to latch it, they'll slide open. Whereas the Everlocks that we installed in the Pinsgauer, they're so much easier to fit and there's no chance of forgetting to lock them.
Even though we put vents into lots of cupboards when we built the van, we've had to add more on the road because our clothes in the wardrobe were freezing to the back wall. So next time we build one, we'll put vents into every single cupboard, and places like this where we've got stagnant air, we'll put silent computer fans to keep the air moving.
I would install a bigger diesel heater in here because even though this 2 kilowatt version does a brilliant job, ever since I ducked it into the garage to try and keep that warmer, it does struggle to warm up as quick. Whereas if I fitted a 4 kilowatt version, then I could run more ducts into different areas of the van, which would mean we would get less stagnant air, it'd move the air around a bit better, and it'd warm up quicker.
A nice little simple fix that we'd add is some acoustic tiles going around the outside of the bed to create a bit more of an air gap and stop our pillows and our blankets freezing to the wall. Now, with regards to the windows and the skylight, we have shown you they've got some issues in the extreme cold with freezing and condensating. But if we were to build this van again, we'd still use the same ones. Because of the value of the base vehicle of this and the price of the expensive windows, we really think it would be overspending. But if we were to build a big expensive expedition truck on a more expensive base vehicle, we'd like to give them a go. And then for the last little bit inside, I'd try and find myself a space to put an air fryer. But I think that we would stay with gas cooking for an extreme winter build because we like the idea of having it as an emergency heat source, and it's also less of a worry with the reduced daylight hours and solar power you get.
The few bits I'd change outside is I'd move the max tracks to either on the roof rack or the back of the van, and then put the water tank into the middle of the chassis where there's a bit of space, and I'd fit a big Dakin locker there for a bit more storage. And because we got into skiing, I'd probably make a big storage box on the back here, or I'd have a side door on the garage so we could store them in there.
Well, we hope that that's been helpful for you, and if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the comments.
And for all the products we use on this build as well, we're going to link them in the description, well, as much as we can anyway, from what we can find. But if you go onto Facebook, there's a Fridge Box Campers group, which is all about this style of vehicle as well, so that might be helpful for you.
And I'll also link for you all of the build videos and the videos where we did the upgrades specifically for this trip. And if you want to see where we take it and what we get up to next, we post videos every Saturday.